Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another Supatease video. And in this one, we're going to be covering my first experiences with the Frost Deathknight in PvP for the War Within. I feel like Deathknight is a class that typically it gets nerfed a lot. It's got a really bad rap, but right now, Frost Deathknight is actually a tremendous amount of fun. And it's one of the specializations that I'm actually looking very forward to in patch 11.1 to try. So we're going to be covering through some of the gameplay here in this. One of the main strengths of the Frost Deathknight is its simplicity. You have a really significantly lower amount of keybinds than a lot of other classes, and you kind of just hit the buttons that light up. You can see right now my Obliterate lit up, so I hit Obliterate. Then I'm hitting Frost Strike. Then my Obliterate lit up, so I hit Obliterate. Now my Howling Blast is lit up, so I can hit a Howling Blast, and we've already killed a target. So you're kind of playing like flashing icon whack-a-mole. It kind of leads itself to play it better if you're a new player than a lot of other classes that don't really give you that same level of direction. And then when the button flashes, the button also equals a large amount of damage on the screen, which is very satisfying if you're somebody who likes those big crits relative to Unholy, which I've also been playing in PvP, which hasn't been feeling as good. It's not as intuitive with directing the player with what they should be doing next, and it doesn't really see a lot of big numbers. I would almost 100% recommend Frost over that of Unholy at the moment. But it also brings in just huge, big AoE burst damage. We can use Death and Decay here to pop the rogue out of stealth, try and give ourselves a bit of an edge, position out of line of sight from the Shadow Priest so we don't get dotted in the opener, and then just immediately start marching forward. A bomb limb to be able to try and clump up the enemies together, because I really want to look for like an AoE stun and go for some massive damage. Should have likely looked to Death Grip in the healer here. I do finally grip him in a little bit later, and I like comboing my Winter's Chill with that Death Grip to go for the stun. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get that stun next patch, but it's going to be this massive slow, and it's likely going to really prevent people from getting away from you. You're going to be able to get a truck ton of damage, assuming that they don't have freedoms. I think like Paladins and stuff like that are going to be really difficult counters for Deathknight, but Paladin is also getting a lot of nerfs, so maybe that won't end up being too bad of a case here, where you're going to use our Icebound Fortitude, which is another big benefit of playing Deathknight. If you're someone like me who gets really angry and cranky when you get crowd controlled, you have like multiple different ways to break crowd control. You have Icebound Fortitude to break out of stuns. You have Lichborn to break out of fear or make yourself immune to polymorph effects preemptively. You've got Anti-Magic Shield that just makes you immune to magic crowd control effects. And then obviously you have your Medallion to be able to escape a crowd control every 2 minutes. So all of those things paired together give you a much better experience, I think, as a solo player, especially if you're a new solo player. Here we got the Strangulate on the healer. You got decent instant crowd control as well with Blinding Sleet and Strangulate. Never really got a sneeze. I got a Blinding Sneeze at the moment. It lends itself really well to the new player at the moment. So if you're looking for something moving into 11.1 or just even something towards the end of the season, I would have to recommend Frost Deathknight. It was one of the smoothest pushes that I've had of any of the specializations so far on my 2400 challenges, and I've done upwards now of 20 plus specializations to 2400 in Solo Shuffle. Get a nice little double Syndragosa. I like the fantasy also of Frost Deathknight. I believe they've gotten recent animation updates. They might be getting a couple of animation updates as well. Just the visuals on it, you really feel like Arthas. You feel like the Lich King just chucking out frost dragons and doing tremendous amounts of pressure, although maybe not at the best time to say that in the game where I'm getting dominated. But I do think that it's fantasy, it's flavor. I like that you can also play dual wield. There's not a lot of like plate dual wield one-handed classes. I could finally use the transmogs that I wanted to use. So if you're somebody who wanted to branch out into something and try some different transmogs, you can do a dual wield build. I was able to get 2400 with it. I don't know 100% for sure if dual wield is better. I think that it's nice for these big kind of frost shatters. You can see that I'm stacking up this number on their health bar. It's at 5. And then when I use, I believe it's a frost strike, it's going to spend that stack and do a bit of extra burst damage. So it's kind of just a fun little additional mini game. I didn't really pay too much attention to it. I kind of just pressed frost strike when it made sense to press it, when I couldn't obliterate and I had max runic power. I wasn't thinking too much about that mechanic, but it is a nice kind of little extra layer of flavor on top of it. Death and Decay is super fun as well as Frost, because it makes all your spells cleave, similar to Unholy. It can be difficult to get people to actually stay inside of it for any prolonged period of time, which is the only challenging part that I've seen with it, because you really want to get it down like preemptively before you grip, and then line it up so that they're stunned, so that they're in Death and Decay, they're getting AoE'd, because all your spells will just cleave multiple targets in Death and Decay. It's a super satisfying mechanic, but it's a bit difficult to execute on. Now in this round, we got the Shadow Priest. So another fun part about Deathknight, everybody knows it for aggression. You run in straight forward and just zug, but you can actually peel really effectively too. You can use Death Grip to pull enemy melee off of your caster. So here I've used Death Grip to pull the Rogue, and I've used Chains of Ice, and I've given my Shadow Priest some space to do damage. And